So, morning Lucy.
Morning, Sarah.
Hi. So we're here to talk about missing people, and every year in the UK about 170,000 people go missing, and that's an astonishingly high number of people. It's adults and children. Most of them return home, but sometimes they don't. And the law can step in to help the families of missing people. And the law that I can help with is called the Presumption of Death Act 2013.
Okay, so when can a solicitor help in a missing person's case?
So usually someone will come to me when the missing person has money or property that needs to be sorted out. Sometimes it might be a jointly owned property, so it might be a couple and one of the couple has gone missing, and it's impossible for the person left behind to mortgage, to sell, to do anything with the property, because when someone's missing, they're in a legal limbo. They're neither, as far as the law is concerned, they're neither alive nor dead. And it creates horrendous problems for families.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have to wait 7 years before you can get a court order?
You don't, and I'm glad you've asked that, because it's a really strong misconception that people have. Under the Presumption of Death Act, you can make an application to the court at any point after someone has gone missing, so long as you think that they have died. After 7 years, it becomes a little easier to make an application, because the court has to make a declaration unless there's evidence that the person is alive. So it makes it slightly easier, but so long as the court is satisfied before the 7 years on the evidence that you're able to put together that the person is most likely, on the balance of probabilities, most likely to have died, then you can get that order. And I've certainly acted for families who have applied weeks after someone's gone missing, particularly in cases where it's thought that the missing person has committed suicide. Those are cases where it can be fairly obvious that they have died, although there is no body. The very awful and difficult cases, well, all of the cases are difficult when there's no body, but there are also cases involving accident or murder where there's no body, and can be very traumatic. But my job is to investigate, get the evidence, and put it before the court to help the families.
I see. And what happens if a person went missing abroad?
Yeah, again, this is sometimes a problem that clients of mine face, that families face, because if someone goes missing abroad, for example on holiday, on a walking holiday, they might be told by the police or they might be told by the Foreign Office that they have to apply under the law of the country where the person went missing, and that's not true. As long as that person had property or assets in England and Wales, then this is where you bring the application for a declaration of presumed death. It doesn't need to be abroad, and that can be particularly helpful if it's a foreign language and you're trying to struggle with even following the police investigation. So you must report the person missing to your UK force, your local force, and they will liaise. And then you can still make the application here.
I see. So, and what's guardianship, and when is that a better option than a declaration of presumed death?
Yeah, I'm glad you've asked that, because guardianship is a relatively new law that's come in, and the idea is that if someone's gone missing but the family don't believe that that person has died, they think they're still alive, and that can actually, interestingly, include situations where someone is held hostage abroad. So they're known to be alive, but they can't deal with their assets, their property, their finances in England or Wales. So you can make an application again to the High Court for what's called a guardianship order, and that enables a loved one to manage and protect the affairs of the missing person in the hope that they'll return. You normally have to wait 90 days for them to have gone missing, but you can make an application if there's an urgent problem that needs solving.
Okay.
So that's fine, and we've got helpful information on our website. I've got FAQs on the Ridley and Hall website that people can look at. There's also a fantastic charity called Missing People that offers huge support to families, so if anyone is interested, do have a look at the information they provide. I know that once we get a declaration of presumed death, that acts like a death certificate for the family. You're in the private client team, you're a solicitor who deals with estates of people who've died. What is it that you do once I've done my bit?
So once you've done your bit, Sarah, we can then apply for the certificate of presumed death. And once we have the certificate, it means we can treat that estate as if the person has sadly passed away. It means that we can establish the value of the estate. It means we can apply for probate if required. We can also begin collecting in the assets of the estate, and that means, for example, closing any bank accounts, cashing in or transferring investments. We can deal with the sale or transfer of any property that your loved one might have had at the date of death. And then once we've collected in the funds from the estate, we can then look at dealing with any debts or liabilities that your loved one might have had during their lifetime or accrued during the administration period. So we can settle those debts using funds from the estate.
Right.
We then prepare what's called the estate account, which details all the monies we've received in and all the monies we've paid out, and it details what each beneficiary will receive. We then can distribute the amounts in accordance with the estate accounts, and this is the conclusion of the administration period.
Okay, and it doesn't matter whether there's a will or not, either way.
No.
Your team can help.
Yeah, we deal with all sorts of estates, whether they've made a will or whether they've died intestate, which means they've not left a will. We're experts in this field, and we can advise on the different circumstances depending on what your family's circumstances are.
Yeah, and I think because, sometimes people say, well, should I deal with it myself?
Yeah.
And I guess sometimes if the estate is very straightforward or low value, that might be sensible.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
there are tax implications, there are reasons why it's better to have a solicitor.
Yeah, that's correct. Many of our clients are left with a terrible situation when their loved ones sadly pass away or go missing, and the weight of having to sort out their estate can weigh heavy on some families. It can be a stressful task, it can be very onerous on the person who's left to deal with this. Many of our families prefer to instruct a solicitor because it means they don't have to deal with all the vast paperwork. They don't have to contact all the different financial institutions, the banks, the utilities, which can often be difficult for families, especially when they're grieving.
And particularly, I guess, in a missing person case where they won't necessarily the financial institutions won't be familiar with a certificate of presumed death.
Precisely.
And they have questions about it.
Precisely.
So,
the added complication when someone goes missing, and that's why it's extremely important that families do get the right legal advice to make sure they're sorting out their loved one's estate properly.
Yeah.
Okay. It's also worth noting as well that legal fees associated with the administration of your loved one's estate are considered estate expenses, so they will be paid for using funds from your loved one's estate.
And likewise, in fact, I'm glad you've mentioned that, because my costs for the work that I do will always come from the estate as well of the missing person.
Yeah, so that's a point to make clear to families. People don't always know that.
Yeah.
And it kind of, a lot of our families believe that, you might as well instruct an expert solicitor, knowing that it's paid for using the loved one's estate, to make sure that it's done properly, and then the executors and the beneficiaries can rest assured that the estate's been dealt with by an expert who's independent to the family and can make sure it's done properly.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.